Hello again. That lunch was delicious, so thank you guys. And you guys are all so sweet. Everyone who's talked to me has been so encouraging, so thank you for that. Yes, like I said at the beginning, I'm very thankful to have God's word because I wouldn't have anything to say without that. So this next lesson is focusing on a different part of the text, on making the best use of your time because the days are evil. Walking with intention and rethinking our priorities. So turn to Ephesians 5 and we will walk through this together. Another question I want you to ask yourself today is, am I about the Lord's business or am I glorifying busyness? And we all know there's only one thing that should be at the center of our journey, right? We've kind of reiterated that several times today. That Christ and his kingdom should be at the very center of our journey. It should be our journey. It is everything. He is everything. The church is everything. Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. That's number one. And we all agree with that. But practically, this is hard, isn't it? Our society glorifies busyness and hustle and just constantly doing the next thing. I don't know about you, but I find myself that I have a tendency to become overconsumed with the things of day to day. You know, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. The temptation is to allow my zeal for Christ to be squashed by the mundane, to allow the cares and pleasures of this world to choke my spirituality out, like we talked about, those thorns. It doesn't have to be bad things either, like we talked about. It can be our children, our house, our husband, things that we're supposed to look after, things that we're supposed to cherish. They can get in the way. The truth is that anything that gets in the way of our service to God is something that needs to be put in its place. Anything that wrenches thoughts of goodness, holiness, spirituality, eternity, and kingdom work is an idol that we need to set back in its proper place. The days are evil. Busyness will consume us if we are not purposeful and intentional in our walk. So with all the things that we can do in this world, how can we walk in a way that is kingdom-centered and not be distracted by everything? That's what we're going to look at in this lesson. Okay, so rethinking our priorities. We're looking at that text again, just with a slightly different nuance. We know what it means to look around us with awareness, circumspectly, looking all around us, being aware of what's around us. We've talked about being wise in our choices, choosing what's best, rather than just looking at what's right and wrong all the time. Another part that is so important is how we use our time, because the days are evil. So redeeming the time in Ephesians 5:15, or make the best use of your time, maybe your version says. The Greek there, it actually means redeeming. So what does redemption mean to you as a child of God? When I think of redemption for myself, it means rescue, it means salvation. It means we are taken from a lost and hopeless state and given purpose and hope. And the same goes for our time. Before we were determined to live for Christ, our days were without purpose and lacked direction. The call of the Christian is to continue to see our days, as this verse encourages us, as opportunities that can either be used up or lost. The word actually means to fully use the opportunities you've been given or to rescue from loss. So we need to look at our minutes as something of great value, where they are inheritance from the Lord that can and will and must be spent. There's a time limit in which to spend them, and it will be spent or lost. There is no saving up minutes. Our duty is to take the inheritance that's given to us and spend it in the wisest way that we can, to save it from being lost forever, because the days are evil. There's a sense of urgency in our responsibility. We must work now while we live, while there is still opportunity. We looked at Ecclesiastes 9:10 in the previous lesson. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge in the grave where you go. There's going to come a time where this all ends. We know that intellectually. We know that life is short and that we will die sooner or later. So why is this so hard? It is difficult because Satan is trying to deceive us into not buying out the time. He wants us to think that there are no opportunities. There's nothing you can do. You don't have any talents. You can't do anything to help this church body. It's better if you just sit back and let the more talented ones do their work. That's what Satan says. He tries to deceive us that we have so much more time left. Just save it till tomorrow. You'll be fine. Save it till the kids move out. Save it till you've done this next big task. Next week will be less busy, okay? Don't we tell ourselves that all the time? It's like, oh, this week was busy. I'm so looking forward for this week to be over. And then next week, I can get all the stuff done that I need to get done. What happens next week? It gets just as busy. You guys know. You guys understand. It never gets, the spoiler alert, next week is going to be just as busy. And he tries to deceive us into thinking we're not capable of redeeming the time that we have. You can't do this. God's asked too much of you. You're better off just using your time the way you want to use it. But do not be deceived. Remember these truths as you move forward with intention. Remember that you have so many opportunities, we talked about in the first one, but you have opportunities that no one else has. You realize that? You have opportunities that I don't have. In Idaho here, you guys have access to people I don't have access to. You guys have access to programs I don't have access to. You guys have unique opportunities. I have different opportunities up in Alaska. We all have different circles, even individually, that we know in our workplace, at our schools. We all have unique opportunities to reach certain souls and to do certain things that other people don't. Don't be deceived. Satan wants you to think you don't, but you do. You also need to remember that your time is limited. Every single one of us has a day appointed for us to leave the earth. Hebrews 9:27, it is appointed for men once to die, and after this the judgment. We only have so much time, and it's coming to an end sooner than we realize. Like I said before, as we get older, we realize that more. When I was little, a year seemed like forever. Like my little kids, once their birthday is over, they're like, when's my birthday now? I'm like, well, it's a whole year away. And they're like, oh, that's so long. Every day they're asking me, when's my birthday? It's like, it's next year, bud. But for me, their birthday comes around super fast. Man, those kids are growing up so fast. And every year, it just rolls over faster. And that's the way it is with our time. You also need to remember that you are capable of taking those opportunities that you have. Sometimes you feel unable, but remember what God does for us. If he's asked us to do it, we can succeed. This verse is asking us to stop and think, am I about the Lord's business or am I just busy? It is so, so easy to be overcome with those simple tasks every day. When I think about days, it's wake, eat, tasks, work, eat, preparation, socialize, work, eat, sleep, and then every day is the same, repeat. Twice or 3 times a week, the flow is interrupted with worship or Bible study. A couple of times a year or a month, depending on your life, or a week, there's drama. There's something that takes over your life, that flips everything over, changes your whole routine, that interrupts your flow. Drama, holidays, emergencies, mental health breaks, sickness, it just comes. You know what I'm talking about. Life just keeps rolling on with these things. Satan loves to interrupt our flow in an attempt to interrupt our good habits and our peace and to make us feel like we might as well give up. It takes real intention and foresight to live for more than just this. So understand this, I'm nothing special, okay? I'm just a person. I'm a mom. I homeschool. I have a little business on the side. I'm a minister's wife. Life can get pretty busy. And sometimes it gets more busy than others. And I tell people about my week and they're like, how do you do everything? Do you know the answer to that? The answer is I don't. Okay? If I'm having a really busy week, come look at my house. You will know how I do everything is that I don't do everything. And that's the truth of my life, but this is the truth of everyone's life. You cannot do everything. You want to fit something else into your life that somebody else does that looks so great, that they're being so successful, guess what? You're going to have to scoop something else out of your life to fit that in. And it's the same for us. It's the same for all of us. There is always more to do. If I do a lot of one thing, there's other things that aren't getting done. It's just the way life is. And so this is how the days are evil. This is how Satan uses our days against us. He says, you can do everything. You can do everything. And it pushes God out of our lives. It really does. Our society and its glorification of busyness, it pushes the important things out of our lives. It looks like, we look at those people who are busy and we say, wow, I wish I could fit everything in that you did. You're so successful. You're getting everything done. But, that's a deception. Not everybody can't get everything done. We need to choose the good things. We need to choose the best things for our life. How can we be different? In a world like this, how can we redeem our time? Well, we need to make our life about God rather than just about good. Here's a quote that I found that I really liked. We have to stop the glorification of busy. Productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing what is most important. We're able to apply that to our spiritual lives too, right? Busy is not the goal here. We need to do what's most important. Do you remember what I said about being able to do everything? We can't do everything, but we feel if we were just a little more organized, if we just hustled a little bit more, with a little more gusto, we could get everything done that we want to do. Look after everything that needs to get done. But if I'm honest, that's how I feel often. People around me are busy and I scold myself for not being busier. If a society had a saying, it would be busyness is next to godliness, I think. But the truth is, when I make God and his kingdom a priority, this means that I will have to sacrifice some things. It means I'll have to sacrifice some things I love, or maybe even feel like I should be doing or have to do in order to serve him in the way that he expects me to. I'm going to have to give up some of the things I want to do. I'm going to have to change the way I look at my time. In order to respect his gift of salvation and mercy and his gracious gift of life, this is the way I have to see myself. What does Romans 12:1-2 say? We are living sacrifices. We sacrifice ourselves daily. We give everything to God. And this has been something that people have always struggled with. Jesus talked about some people who were invited to a wedding feast in Luke 14:17-20. And I'm going to read that out. And at the time for the banquet, he sent his servants to say to those who'd been invited, "Come, for everything is now ready." But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said to him, "I've bought a field and I must go out and see it. Please have me excused." Another said, "I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and I go to examine them. Please have me excused." And another said, "I've married a wife and therefore I cannot come." Those are all good things, right? They're talking about possessions and business and family. These are all things that fill our lives and can be good. But these people had let it get in the way. Our blessings can be the things that get in the way. God can't be second place to anything. Another verse which talks about this is Matthew 10:37-39. It says, "Whoever loves father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." If we aren't feeling like in some area we're losing our lives because of our service to God, if we don't feel like we're giving up something, if we're not sacrificing in some way, we're probably doing something wrong. Service to God it demands sacrifice. This is what Jesus says. And if I look at my life honestly, I can see that in my own life, too often I do what I want to do. I allow life to pull me along, and I fail to evaluate how I can better serve him on a daily basis. So what are some ways that we can practically make sure our priorities are right? How can we know that if we've made a good decision with our priorities? I think we need to remember that there's no such thing as perfect balance. People talk about being balanced life. You do all the things that you need to do. Well, the truth is that there's just God first. And everything else falls under that. You can do the best you can to be a good steward of all the things that you have. And, I think it's great to look after your body and to exercise and to, plan out your meals and things like this. But if that's getting in the way of other things, if anything is getting in the way of other things, if your children are getting in the way, if their schooling is getting in the way, if sports are getting in the way, whatever is getting in the way is something that has taken over your life to where it needs to be put in its place. No matter what season of our life, no matter what our responsibilities, God and his church come first. I think it does us well to remember Jesus was our perfect example of what humanity looks like. And his mission was clear, right? He came to seek and save the lost, says in Luke 19:10. And he came to serve and not be served, it says in Matthew 20:28. The Son of God, the Word become flesh, came down and served us and saved us. And who are we to think that we deserve more of a life of leisure and luxury than our Savior did? I think sometimes we don't think enough about Jesus and the kind of life that he led and how he didn't have a home and he didn't have possessions, and his goal was to seek and save and serve. And so we need to reflect more on that and realize that it doesn't matter if what stage of life we're in, whether it be youth, singleness, motherhood, career building, empty nesting, sickness, tragedy, old age, whatever it is, your number one aspiration must be to serve the Lord's church and save souls. We all have an opportunity to do that no matter what situation or life stage we find ourselves in. There's something we can do. We cannot be content with just serving our family and ourselves. Everything we do must be dedicated to glorifying God. Even more. I can't tell you what this will look like in your life. Again, you're going to have to examine yourself and see. But I really like in 1 Corinthians, that's my baby, I think, 1 Corinthians 16:15, Paul talks about the household of Stephanas. And the household of Stephanas, how they were addicted to the ministry, it says. They're addicted to the ministry, and he says, these observe and do the same as them. Does my life look like that? Could someone looking at my life say, she's addicted to the ministry. She loves the church. She loves serving people. She loves reaching out to souls. I know I could definitely do better. I can do a lot better. Am I addicted to the ministry? That's something we need to think about. And is my life at that level? If it's not, again, we're reaching, we're striving, we're moving forward to that. Another way that we can be about the Lord's business is that we need to make time for stillness. So we talked about the Lord's business versus busyness. So stillness is important. Our world is busy, but God is not found in constant busyness. God is found in the pockets of stillness we create. Can I find God if I keep my hands and my brain so busy that I don't have a second to feel or think? about him. If every time I feel a little boredom, I hide it with scrolling on my phone or whatever else I enjoy or find amusing, how can I expect to ever connect with him? I love this quote from Brené Brown. Crazy busy is a great armor. It's a great way for numbing. What a lot of us do is that we stay so busy and so out in front of our life that the truth of how we are feeling and what we really need can't catch up with us. Have any of you felt that in your lives? This is something I really struggle with. Be still and know is the call that is made in Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted among the earth. In a world that glorifies busyness, one of the most radical and God-honoring things we can do is to create space in our brains to be able to feel, think, and meditate on him. That is hard. In 2025, that is hard. There is so much that's vying for our attention. There are so many ways that we can just switch up our brains and scroll our cares away, But the cares are still there, and God is still waiting. He will be praised. Am I living in a way that praises him? We need to get rid of the constant buzz in our lives. I think thinking practically now of how we can find stillness. How can we be still and know? I'm going to be real about a struggle that I have. Maybe you've had the struggle. Maybe you don't. But the statistics say that most of us do. The national average for screen time in the US is 7 hours a day. The national average. That means that while some are on their phones less, many are on their phones more. And I would say, oh, that's surprising. Wow, shock, horror, except for that was me. Sometimes that is still me on my bad days, but that was me. I was clocking that more days than not. This is a real problem. I would just numb my feelings with scrolling and nothingness. Wake up in the morning, scrolling. Go to bed at night, scrolling. When I'm feeling too many feelings and I'm stressed, scrolling. And for myself, I struggled because I use my phone for good things. It's a good thing, I think. Social media is great if you can use it right. The internet is wonderful if you can use it right. But it was taking over me. And like Paul said, I don't want to use, I will not be brought under the yoke of anything. And so for myself, I got an app service. I paid for an app service that tracks my usage. And I am consistently clocking under 2 hours now. But but I've been consistently a lot better with my usage. That was one thing that was really struggled with. And, to be honest, I still struggle with it sometimes. But whatever it is you use to dull your feelings is my point. Or to push God out of your life. Whatever it is, whether it's social media, whether it's seeking out, chatting with your friends, whether it's drowning your feelings in a pint of ice cream, whether it's being a workaholic, anything that you use to numb yourself or to feel your feelings rather than drawing yourself to God, that's something that is just a substitute for true connection. Often I was stressed or I was lonely. Or I was feeling, things that I didn't want to deal with. And so that's why I did it. But God was there and he is waiting. And he is like that for all of us. Everything needs to point to God. Our feelings of joy, our feelings of sadness, our stress, our need for connection, our lonely moments. You know that he's right there. We can just talk to him. You know that? That's crazy. It doesn't have to be something special. It doesn't have to be a set time. It Doesn't have to be in a special place. He is there. And we can reach out to him. And you know what? It helps. Sometimes I kick against it, but it helps when you just go to him. He is exactly what we need. We need to learn to be quick to turn to God rather than to use other things to calm and soothe ourselves. How many times have we substituted a chance to connect with God because we've chosen entertainment or something else that amuses us or numbs us or whatever it is? Why didn't I go to God first? We need to learn to make him our knee-jerk reaction. Go straight to him. We need to realize that all the time we have is his as well. All the time is his. If he were not to give me time, I wouldn't have any time. He gave me this life. This lesson series is titled Her Time, His Glory, which I love. But I need to realize this. I don't make time for God. I give my time back to him. I am giving him what he has given me. And so whatever I do, in word or deed, I need to do all to his glory. Colossians 3:17 tells me that. I need to do all to the glory of God. My time is for his glory. This means that I don't carve out time for God. Instead, I shape every aspect of my life to please him. He's not a slice of the pie. He is the wheel that my life revolves around. This transforms everything. It changes the way I work, play, recreate, and socialize. It changes the way I go out to eat, the way I treat the people where I go out to eat. It changes the way that I grocery shop, how I treat people when I'm there, how I treat the cashier. It changes the way I go about my daily tasks. The tasks are the same. The mundanity is still the same, right? But the tasks have a renewed purpose and are filled with gratitude instead of griping. This is how God transforms us and transforms the time that we have. We don't give him time. He transforms our time. We also need to make time to understand what his will is. That's part of our verses we're talking about today, right? Understanding what the will of the Lord is. This is a key to redeeming our time. If we respect our Lord, if we want to be his servants, then we need to act like his word is important. We need to listen to what he says and revere it. And this means we need to take time to know it. So I got the phrase for this lesson, the Lord's business, from the account where the boy Jesus stayed in Jerusalem. Do you know that account? Yeah, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem to learn from the teachers about God's word. He said in this account, "Don't you know that I must be about my Father's business?" I know the Bible doesn't say anything about this explicitly, so I'm going to think about something theologically here that you can take with a grain of salt. Okay, this is Chantelle's version, okay? The Bible doesn't say anything about this explicitly, but the only way I can wrap my head around Jesus in the light of all that is written, he gave up being equal with God. He became human. He emptied himself of the power of God. He became a baby, right? He submitted himself to that. And it wasn't until after his baptism, that Jesus began to go out and teach. I believe this is when he had the power bestowed upon him. All the miraculous power and stuff, because it was only after that he did his first miracle. So I believe, and this really deepens it for me, but like I said, take it with a grain of salt. I believe he had to pursue a knowledge of the scriptures like we all do in his childhood. I believe that he wasn't just given all that. I think he had to pursue it. And this is why this account is so important, because he went and he took the time to learn from teachers and to ask questions. I believe he is our perfect example in this as well. My Jesus had to learn to be about his Father's business. And here he was learning more about God's word from the scribes and teachers at the temple. That was his Lord's business. I need to understand what the will of the Lord is. It was important to Jesus. It needs to be important to me. Am I about my Lord's business in the same way? If I'm too busy, I will miss this. This is something we have to make time for. I will miss the opportunities to understand what his will is if I'm too busy being Martha and not Mary. So, in conclusion, her time, his glory. How would your life look different if you lived according to that? If you lived with this in your mind every day? I don't know what the answer is for you, but I ask you to ask yourselves this when you leave today. Review some of the questions we talked about. What is an aspect of your life that's been lacking? What could you improve? Is there that nagging thing that you've been like, you know what, that really needs to change? Like me with my social media, I'd known it for a long time. You know, is there something like that? Can you get some accountability? Can you do something that's going to really kickstart some change in that area? What is it for you? You can't change everything in a weekend, but you can change one thing and start getting closer to God and start changing for the better. Our verse is what I'm going to leave you with today. I'm going to read it one more time. Therefore it says, awake, O sleeper, arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. That's the key there. This is how we do this. This is how we change for the better. Thank you so much for today. I love you all. It's been really a joy to be with you guys. I think we have discussion questions, but do we have a question session as well? Okay, another question session. Or comments or whatever, please tell me things. Or I can just stand here. It's okay.
I'd say politics became a huge part of this year for me as a feeling like I needed to prove my dad wrong because he's watching the liberal stuff and it's really irritating. And he'll say, something against our president. And so I all of a sudden started wanting to plug into all sorts of people on the right side, right, literally, and to tell my dad he's wrong in that viewpoint, and it just got really consuming. I don't know if I'm sure plenty of us have fallen into that trap of maybe one thing or just learn from someone else. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's
about politics.
Well, about big things of discussion that could drain our time, and to know when there's a stopping point that, hey, this is crossing into my study time, my prayer time.
Yeah, I think, sorry, politics. So what we need to keep in mind with these things, especially when it's someone who is fallen away, or I gathered that. Yeah. Okay. So if it's somebody who's not in the church or currently going to church for whatever reason, the really important thing is to keep the first things first. And so politics are extra. Your feelings on policies, they're not heaven things, And so I think even though you might feel like really convicted and that it's the right thing, and there are certain things on either side actually that we really can't ignore are definitely good or definitely bad. There are things that are morally, biblically good or bad on both sides. And we need to realize that unless we're talking about those things, if we're just talking about all the opinions that we have, we need to keep first things first and realize that Christ's message is divisive. He says that he comes to bring a sword, okay, which we don't think about that often, but he comes to bring a sword between family. Christ's message does that. And so if Christ's message does that, I don't want to bring in any other message that potentially will make that happen, because Christ's message is already really hard to hear. And so it's really hard when you have opinions on things, but sometimes just letting it slide is important. But, you know, when you get me on something like pro-life or something like that, like, yeah, I'm going to fight that. But, like, you know, if it's something like border crossings or something, you know, yeah, it's just, yeah. Hello.
Like you had said, I feel like if the devil can't get us living in sin, then he will do everything that he can to distract us while we're living our good lives and not striving to be better. I went through a really busy season of my life, and I was praying constantly saying, God, why can't I hear you? Why can't I hear your voice even in the stillness? And I feel like he had told me, how do you expect to hear me when you're distracted all the time, whether it be worship music or, you know, listening to podcasts and not getting in my word, or, you know, doing good but not doing better. And so those were some adjustments that I had to make in my life to really be still and know and listen for his voice and keep my mind throughout my entire day focused on him.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. If you're not like in full out rebellion, it can be very easy to just like do the good things and have that be a distraction for sure.
I want to know what the app was and how specifically did it help you?
Yes. This is, okay, so I'm a little bit excited about this. So it's called Be Present. And so what it does is, I mean, obviously you can delete it. So it's like, you don't have to listen to it, but it works for me. So it costs so much a year. I don't know how much, but what it does is you can choose how many hours a day you're on your phone. You can choose certain apps and how many times you can open them and for how long every day. And then you can choose certain apps that are always open, that are always available. And so I've got like all my learning apps are always available. So like my Bible app, things like that. But like Facebook and Instagram, because I'm old, so I have Facebook, you know. Sorry. So Facebook and Instagram are my time wasters. And so I have those like set for just, I can only open it so many times and only for like 3 minutes a day, 3 minutes at a time. And so, you know, if I use it all up in the morning, I've got no more Facebook or whatever. I use it for my business. So I have to like think about that. Like, will I need it today? But yeah, that's how it helps. And then it gamifies it. So it's like, oh, if you have a present session, which is like you turn your phone off and you can't use anything on it, and like you can't break out of it, then you get extra points and you get like upgraded. It's fun. But it's like, yeah, it's really helped me just to be more aware. Yeah. And it'll do things like, it'll be like if you spent an hour on your phone for the day, it'll be like, you're making Zuckerberg really happy. Or like things like this, like which is like, it plays with your mind and you're like, ooh, I don't want to do that. I think, yes, you have a week free. I think they offer you like 40% off or something. If you like do it for the week, they're like, oh, here you. Yes, I think there's something like that. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, that's just one example. I mean, whatever it is that you struggle with, it's worth spending money on if it can help you. Yeah, there you go.
I think we can all agree this has been a very, very good day. We really enjoyed the lessons. Thank you so much for taking the time to prepare those. They were just great. I love how practical they were. Like very practical. So thank you. So next steps. Next we are gonna have, it says from 2 to 3. We're ahead of schedule, guys. That never happens. So you have a few minutes to visit, but from 2 to 3, we're gonna have dessert and discussion over back in the fellowship hall. So I know we like to talk and we like to visit, but there's going to be some discussion questions on each of the tables, and there's a lot of them. So you can pick which ones you want to talk about, but try to really spend some time at your table discussing some of the questions, as well as discussing how good the desserts are and all that stuff. And then, so at 3 o'clock or sooner, if it feels like, you know, we need to do it sooner, but we're going to have a little short closing time. So, but we'll stay over there and do that, correct? Okay. Is there anything else that I need to say? Michelle? Lori? I did talk about that already. Yeah, but I'll talk about it again. Make sure you grab a planner before you leave. There's planners for everybody out there, or there's also little note things if planning stresses you out. Yes? Perfect. And if you have the energy and the physical capability to stay at 3 and help clean up, we're going to clean up the fellowship hall mostly, so that the after hours people don't get stuck with all the cleanup. But only if you have the energy and the strength. And ooh, okay. Flowers for people to take. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So I didn't have a prayer scheduled for now. I just have one for the end. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get dessert and go to the discussion tables.